Wait. Hello, everyone. I'm Alina Kolar. I'm the campaign manager of HouseEurope. It's a European citizens initiative. And I would like to start with a very sobering single fact, which is every minute a building in Europe is demolished. The European Environment Agency estimates that 5 to 15% of Europe's building stock will be demolished by 2050. That's about 500,000 to 1.5 buildings per year. So the common figure of one building being demolished every minute actually reflects the lower end of the range. Well, it could be closer to 3 buildings per minute. Overall, by 2050, we will have demolished 2 billion square meters of existing space in Europe. That is more than entire cities of Athens, Berlin, or Paris, only to replace them with new buildings. But why do we demolish buildings when we actually need more space? Because space is treated as a financial asset rather than a place for people to live. We demolish because speculation and laws make demolition as well as vacancy more profitable than use. Buildings are torn down to maximize short-term returns, not long-term resilience. This is part of a throwaway society where instead of investing in repair, reuse, or transformation, we default to new construction that drives up emissions, resource consumption, and prices. Putting profit over people comes with extreme consequences. Building in Europe today means destruction of land, of ecosystems, of social fabric. Construction is responsible for 40% of global CO2 emissions, and extractive practices disproportionately harm vulnerable communities. Yet, despite a deepening housing crisis, much of what gets built fails to meet human and planetary needs, while vast amounts of existing space remain unused. This cycle of demolition and new construction is outdated, just like food waste, animal testing, or single-use plastics. And we can no longer speak of sustainability without confronting the contradiction at its core, a building culture that fuels environmental destruction and social injustice. This is why we need a change, not symbolic, but structural and systemic. As a communication scientist and creative strategist, I joined forces with the architecture practice B+ in Berlin and Anna Brandlhuber's chair for architecture and storytelling at the Federal Institute of Technology, ETH in Zurich. And together we asked, how can we change the rules of the building sector in Europe? How can we design the advent of an idea into culture? And how can we become part of the solution instead of remain part of the problem? So HouseEurope was initiated as a non-profit policy lab and a European citizens initiative, working to make renovation and transformation the new norm in Europe through new laws, new narratives, and a new sense of collective responsibility. We know the facts, especially you, because I know I'm speaking to a very informed audience today. The most sustainable building is the one that already exists. The architecture market continues to grow at the same pace as its emissions, both at 38%. Only 25% of the existing stock in Europe is renovated, meaning that 75% still need to be renovated. At a 1% renovation rate per year, it would take us 75 years to achieve the climate goals of the Paris Agreement. But we only have 25 years. That means we have to triple the renovation rate in Europe. But we also know that facts are not enough to convince people to act. We need to tell a story. So we're trying to change the narrative one building at a time. And here's an example of a building in Berlin that urgently needs transformation like so many others. This is the Mäusebunker.
Es war einmal eine Tierversuchsanstalt, gebaut im Südwesten Berlins als Teil der Charité, geplant als Maschine für Forschung und Experimente, gedacht als Zeichen der Überlegenheit über die Natur. Nichts sollte rein, nichts sollte raus. Ein Bunker inmitten der Stadt. Doch die Menschen wussten, was hinter den Mauern passiert. Sie protestierten für die Schließung des Gebäudes und gegen die Vorstellung, was der Mäusebunker war. Zeugnis der Grausamkeiten von Menschen an Tieren, Zeichen für unendliches Wachstum und Fortschritt, Zweifel an der Abgrenzung zwischen Mensch und Natur. Bis heute steht das Gebäude leer und wartet auf eine Nachnutzung. Und wieder ist es an der Zeit für einen Umbruch, um einen gemeinsamen Raum für unser Zusammenleben zu schaffen. Wir müssen anders auf bereits vorhandene Gebäude schauen, deren Potenzial erkennen, unsere Wertvorstellungen ändern, den Bestand pflegen und weniger neu bauen. Menschen und Tiere müssen am Wandel teilhaben, die Ruine bewahren, die Nutzung adaptieren, die Substanz renovieren, die Regeln transformieren. Mäusebunker, ein Ort des Zusammenlebens.
So while saving one or a few buildings from demolition is important, it's simply not enough. This is why we started HouseEurope as a pan-European movement, so we're actually campaigning all over Europe. A European Citizens Initiative is a tool for participatory democracy implemented by the European Union, and it enables citizens across the EU to propose new laws or amend existing ones. If 1 million EU citizens from at least 7 countries sign the initiative, the European Commission must consider the proposal and put it on its agenda to assess how it can be implemented. This gives citizens a direct say in EU policymaking and brings attention to critical issues that would otherwise remain overlooked. So we chose this tool because we wanted to change something and we didn't want to do it alone, and we wanted to include the public. But after a comprehensive survey we conducted in 8 European member states, we realized most people don't actually think about the impact the built environment has on their lives. So raising awareness is one part of the initiative. I'm going to show you a trailer that we usually use.
You want to...
Oh no. This is the one that we wanted to see before. How can I go back? Like this. Oh gosh. This is cursed.
You want to start a family, but cannot afford a home. You want to build a future, but can only find temporary housing. You want to find a house, but functioning buildings are demolished. You want to save homes for our communities. You want to fight climate change for our existence. You want to create freedom for the next generation. You are not alone. We blame landlords for raising our rents. We blame developers for demolishing our buildings. We blame politicians for ruining our hometowns. We blame ourselves for not working harder, not saving more, not being richer. We are anxious, angry, alienated. But don't worry. Together we can transform the system and renovate existing buildings to house Europe. Because renovation is the best option. The only thing we need now is laws to make renovation cheaper, faster, and easier. The EU has the power to change this. You have the power to change this. Support HouseEurope. Now.
So in an ideal world, a radical transformation would be the solution, but transformation takes a lot of time. So, and we're not saying that all demolition is bad. There will always be exceptions. Only today, demolition is the rule and transformation is the exception. We want to flip that. Our buildings carry many values, and it's time we recognize them and make transformation the rewarding choice. So we developed concrete, achievable policy changes that can pave the way for the bigger shift. With experts from the building sector, policymakers, EU lawyers, and national partners across Europe, we worked on an alternative to current legislation. HouseEurope proposes this directly to the European Commission. We call this legal framework the right to reuse. It includes 3 core legal proposals: tax reductions for renovation work and reused materials, fair rules to assess not just the risks but also the potentials of existing buildings, and new values for the embedded CO2 in existing structures, or what people in the industry call the gray energy. Our legal proposal stands on 4 pillars: social, economic, ecologic, and cultural. The social one is that renovation saves homes by keeping prices stable, letting residents stay, and preserving neighborhoods' identities and community lives. There's a very good example by La Caton-Vassal in Bordeaux. It's the building that you can see here, where residents were actually able to remain in the home whilst the house was renovated. So we're showing these, we have like a renovation atlas online where we're gathering examples that can be scaled up all across Europe. The economic premise is that renovation saves jobs by supporting local work and small businesses, helping markets thrive on labor instead of materials. This was shown by Basque architects in the French countryside by renovating with local builders a house, a single-family home. The ecological premise is that renovation saves energy by preserving materials, reducing waste, lowering CO2 emissions, and limiting resource extraction. This is an example by Elephant Architects in Amsterdam, where a former bank was transformed into housing. And the cultural premise is that renovation saves history. It values the existing, keeps memories alive, and allows stories to inform future generations. This is a form of wine storage, which also became housing in Switzerland. So most of this isn't actually new, and luckily we're not alone. We've built coalitions across Europe and beyond, bringing together people who've been working on this for a very long time, from architects like La Caton-Vassal and Herzog de Meuron to the Architecture Council of Europe and hundreds of practitioners who now support HouseEurope. It is an initiative that is now registered officially with the European Union, and we have 1 year to collect 1 million signatures, so all EU citizens can sign until February 2026. With HouseEurope, we're trying to build a connection between architecture and participatory democracy, and we hope you'll join us. When you scan this QR code, you can either follow the initiative or you can sign if you're an EU citizen. Thank you very much.